everyone so much for having me here. The last time I was here was over 6 months ago, when I was competing in the qualifying round of the Chinese bridge competition to get to go to China. But really, my story with Chinese begins much before last June. My family moved to China when I was very young, and I was fortunate enough to be exposed to Chinese at a young age and learn it in an immersive culture. I still remember my first Chinese speech when I was in 3rd grade.
大家好，我的名字叫卢小乐，我是一名3年级的学生。
Since then, I have been on a long road of studying and practicing Chinese, which finally led me to representing the United States as the San Francisco delegate this past October in the Chinese Bridge competition. Well, immediately after my 13-hour flight, I was whisked to the airport by friendly competition volunteers. Battling jet lag, and given it was 11 p.m. at night, I still managed to take glamour shots, which were then repeatedly used later throughout the competition. It was at this point that I realized this would not be any ordinary competition. For the next 3 days, we traveled around Beijing with the other 113 contestants from 96 countries. We went to all the iconic tourist sites, from the Great Wall of China to the Forbidden City, and not pictured but also attended was the Bird's Nest. After all the fun sightseeing, the real competition began, and we boarded the high-speed rail train from Beijing to Tianjin. The next day, we had the opening ceremony, where contestants were encouraged to wear their country's traditional attire and walk across the stage waving their flag. Then we were thrown right into it, beginning with a 30-question multiple test. Luckily, I had my childhood nanny, Hua Ai, with me the entire competition, mentoring me and teaching me everything I needed to know. The morning before the written test, we woke up at 6 a.m. and spent 2 hours looking over the 考题库, the practice problem set we received from the competition organizers. After the written exam component, which 我得了满分, there was a pre-prepared speech and that my amazing 老师, Yuan 老师 helped me work on and coached me how to perform it. Lastly, there was the talent component of the first round. I chose to perform a traditional Chinese dance with modern acrobatic components. Using the basic Chinese dance knowledge I had actually learned while I was living in China, I was able to choreograph this dance entirely by myself. Oh, also, did I mention that I celebrated my 18th birthday whilst I was competing in the competition? My birthday wish came true, and I passed the first round of the competition and was now into round 2. In the next round of the competition, the top 6 American continent finalists were taken to explore a street in Tianjin known as 古文化街, with many different art and craft vendors. Afterwards, we had a pop quiz where we had to raise the corresponding letter to the right multiple choice question. The next component of this round required fast thinking on the ground. We were tasked with giving a 2-minute impromptu speech on all that we had just seen. In the 10 minutes before giving my speech, I was able to recall all the highlights from the past 2 hours, and I delivered a speech where my punchline was the fact that I wish that one day when I become a mother, my babies will be as cute as those in the traditional 杨柳青年 drawing style, which features very cute, plump babies. Needless to say, the room boomed with the sound of the judges' laughter. It might have been my success in getting all the multiple choice questions right, or the fact that when I sat down, the judges were rolling from laughter, but regardless of the reasoning, it worked, and I was able to advance to the next round. In round 3, the top 3 American contestants competed for the title of the American Continent Champion. However, before this round of competition started, we had many special day excursions to engage in many aspects of Chinese culture. We went to the Peking Opera High School. We went on a special VIP tour of Tianjin's trading port, which is the world's first zero-coal emission port, as well as exploring Tianjin's historic colonial district that has architectural remains from the 20th century, when many European countries were in power over the city. My favorite building was the Gulalo, which features indents in the building, which give it its unique name, 歌到楼. My favorite activity, however, was making friends with lots of really cute local school children. Everyone was excited to see a 外国女孩. Then the official competition began. The first component was the same multiple choice questions. However, this time we were answering the questions at the famous Tianjin martial arts school, 霍延甲学校. The pressure was on. All the years of Chinese that I had acquired came in handy, and I ended up getting 9 out of 10 of the questions right. That afternoon, competitors were taken to the studio stage. Contestants were expected to deliver a speech on the specific tourist site they had visited. The American contestants were tasked with talking about the Peking Opera School. After the judges calculated each contestant's composite score, the top 2 contestants from each continent were advanced to a final head-to-head tic-tac-toe game that would determine who would earn the coveted title of continent champion. Each question a contestant answered correctly advanced them to a new square. The first contestant to get 3 squares in a row would win. The contestant from DC and I came to a head-to-head draw. In this special case, they gave me one last all-or-nothing question to determine the continent champion. My buzzer lit green. I answered one question, and then immediately the screen behind me flashed green, signifying I had answered correctly and was now the American continent champion. I could not believe I had won. I was really, truly in shock because I had no idea that back in June when I was here in the qualifying round that I would even make it this far in the competition. So now I was representing the American continent, and I was no longer just representing San Francisco, but rather I was representing both North and South America. The press flocked to interview me, and I had to strategically schedule interviews in between my practice sessions. At this point in the competition, I was assigned a personal choreographer who worked with me to come up with an entirely new dance. We had many rehearsals before the big day, and I tried to cram in as much practice backstage in the in-between moments. On the day of the final competition, I arrived early to the theater and went immediately backstage to get my hair and makeup done. Then it was 3, 2, 1, lights, camera, action. My water sleeves waved in the air as I struck each pose with gusto and passion. I kept composure and smiled as often as I could. In the end, it came down to the 2 final contestants, myself and the other contestant from Laos. To determine who the ultimate winner of the competition was, we engaged in another game show style version of Chutes and Ladders, where the first person to get to the end of the board would be declared the Chinese Bridge Primary Student 2024 World Champion. The Laotian contestant beat me to the end of the board but I finished second place that night. Despite not earning the gold medal, I was still very proud of myself for coming in with a silver medal. I made many new friends from Fiji to Montenegro and gained many invaluable new experiences. I celebrated my win with my fellow contestants, but before I knew it, these 2 life-changing weeks were all over, and I was back in America, sitting at my desk for my 8 a.m. calculus class. 追梦中文不负韶华 was this year's competition slogan, and I'm overjoyed to think back on these 2 weeks and reminisce on how I breathed, slept, and ate Chinese for 2 weeks straight. This was truly a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and I will never forget it. Now, on to the thank yous. First, I would like to thank the San Francisco Chinese Consulate for holding this spectacular event tonight, as well as supporting me from June all the way until now on this amazing journey. Next, I would like to thank my school, Thatcher, and all my teachers for being oh so very generous and accommodating and working one-on-one with me to ensure that I did not fall behind. And of course, I would like to thank Chinese Bridge, Hanyu for organizing this competition and allowing me and many other students to create lifelong memories and connect with other students from across the world. I'd like to thank Hua Ai, my nanny, for who I knew from the age of 3. She drilled in me the passion for Chinese and study habits that I've had since a young age. And if it wasn't for her strict but loving attitude from the time that she knew me, I would not have the fundamental Chinese skills needed to compete in this competition. 高老师, you are the cool auntie that all students wish they had. I am so honored to have become one of your students and learned from you in the past year. I thoroughly enjoyed getting closer with you over our time in China together during the competition. I cannot wait to continue building our relationship in the future. 袁老师, my first Chinese teacher since coming back to America. Since my freshman year, we have met almost once a week, every week, so that you could tutor me one-on-one. Your expertise and attention to detail have not gone unnoticed. Thank you for staying up until 4 a.m. in the morning so that you could follow along my journey and progress virtually whilst you're still in America. I am glad all our classes paid off and that with your help, I have been able to maintain my Chinese. Grace, the amazing volunteer from the competition, who unfortunately isn't here today because she's in China, was my saving grace during the competition. When I needed help figuring out my presentation, she was there. When my throat began hurting, she brought me cough drops. When the reporters tried interviewing me and I was preparing for the competition, she shooed them away. Thank you for going above and beyond for me, Grace. I miss you dearly. Lastly, I'd like to thank my entire family. Thank you to my siblings, Maytal and Ayers, for dealing with my shenanigans and cheering me on throughout the entire process from Phoenix. I'd also like to thank my parents for making the bold decision to move to China and raise their family there. 18 years later, it looks like it's paid off. I'd also like to especially thank my dad, 我的爸爸, for joining me in China for 2 weeks and being the best companion. You pushed me to achieve my best whilst also comforting me when I was stressed and tired. We really had a special 2 weeks together. Thank you so much to all of you for coming here tonight. I'd also like to thank all 4 of my grandparents who are here, the school students who are joining us tonight, and the news channel's reporter. I am so honored to have the chance to give everyone a glimpse into this incredible experience, and I encourage all who are interested to 追梦他们的中国梦, chase their dreams, and compete this spring here at the consulate for a chance to represent all of America in this global competition. 谢谢大家. Thank you, everyone.